It's our closest neighbor and the highest populated Islamic nation in the world. Historically, the relationship between Indonesia and Australia has been rocky with many highs and lows. One of the highs was former Prime Minister Paul Keating's visit to Indonesia in 1992. Today, according to Indonesian Consul General Gary Yusuf, the relationship on a governmental level is good.
We have very close relations. As you may see, our president has visited Australia last year, 2010, and he'll be coming here again.
Indonesian has been recognized as very important to Australia, and the federal government has declared it a strategic language. The only other language categorized as strategic is Arabic. And the author of the government-commissioned report on Indonesian studies says even if education is considered crucial to the bilateral relationship, collaboration in this area is not good.
There's probably less successful engagement between the education ministers, and education certainly is an area which the prime ministers have recognised is actually key to the relationship.
And Indonesian Consul General Yusuf says language is important to maintain the good relationship.
Of course, yes, the acknowledgement of Indonesian language by the Australians is an indicator of Australians' attention to Indonesia.
But in the last decade, the enrollment numbers in Indonesian studies has, according to the Government Commission report, declined nationally by 40%. Professor Hill says the situation could be catastrophic.
When you match this up to the fact that Indonesian language enrolments in our school system are also declining, then we have a potential catastrophe for Australia's expertise in Indonesian.
Dr. Rohaya Mahali has taught Indonesian at the University of New South Wales since 1995 and has witnessed the decline firsthand.
At the moment, it's not good.
Australian universities have removed the cap on the number of students, but despite this, the increase in Indonesian studies is modest. Dr. Dwi Jenar teaches Indonesian at the University of Sydney, and she says enrollment numbers remain low.
The student numbers themselves aren't, very big as compared to other languages such as Spanish, French, Chinese.
Many universities have already been forced to close down their courses, and Professor Hill says if this trend continues, there's a danger that Indonesian studies will disappear almost completely.
If you look at the statistics with regard to enrolment in Indonesian in Australian universities, and you project the trend from 2001 to 2010, if that trajectory is projected without intervention, without change, then we find that Indonesian would have disappeared from Australian universities in most states by about 2020.
Improving.
This trend has Dr. Mahali very concerned.
And the most worrisome thing for me would be to keep thinking whether or not I'm going to have a student, in the next semester.
And it is not only the number of students graduating that is affected. Dr. Mahali says it has affected her personally and her ability to do her work, as she is the only staff member left in the Indonesian department.
I feel that stress. I can't do my research, my own research. That's why it's hard for me to actually find time to publish. I can't put my mind into it because it's hard. How can I do so many things at the same time? Yeah. And for 17 years working here, I haven't had a chance for a long service leave. But I'm thinking of, taking it next semester because otherwise I'll be experiencing a nervous breakdown.
And the national trend also has Dr. Jenar concerned.
What Professor Hill has pointed out is really quite true. It's quite worrying. I don't know what we'd do without language. I think it's not just the medium through which we understand the other, it is understanding the other.
Dr. Mahali believes the decline is caused by the travel warning.
Numbers have reduced a lot, especially after, in my opinion, it's especially the case after the Bali bombing, because there was then what is called travel warning from the Australian government.
The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade declined requests for an interview, but in a written statement, a spokesperson states,
"For Indonesia, the travel advice continues to advise Australians to reconsider the need to travel to Indonesia, including Bali, due to the very high threat of terrorist attack."
But Indonesian Consul General Yusuf believes the advisory is no longer necessary.
I don't think so. Indonesia is already a very safe country.
According to Professor Hill, the decline in enrollments can have serious consequences for Australia in the long run.
It can certainly have long-term economic implications. It can also have security implications.
The International Monetary Fund predicts Indonesia will experience faster growth in its economy than China. Professor Hill says for Australia to reap the benefits of this boom, we need to be able to communicate with and understand Indonesia.
So Indonesia is potentially an economic dynamo right on our doorstep. And for Australia to be able to work with Indonesia, to be able to engage economically in that unfolding boom, we have to have the language capacity.
And Indonesian Consul General Yusuf simply believes Australians have to study Indonesian.
You have no choice. You can choose friends, but you can't choose neighbors.
Whatever happens, Indonesia is going to be where it is, and almost every major social, political, environmental issue that is going to emerge over the next century will require states to work together. All of these things require Australia and Indonesia to be able to engage in dialogue. Dialogue requires communication. Communication requires language capacity.